So I bought another camera. This is the Ronin 4D. It's something you've probably heard a lot about, but it's a little too expensive to just go out and get. For the last 6 months, I've been using this camera on almost every single shoot, and I'm here to give you a full review to let you know if this is a truly capable cinema camera or is this just a gimmick that I regret. What's going on, guys? Yo, today I want to talk to you about the Ronin 4D. This is something that is an experimental camera, just plain and simple. This is a gimbal and a camera put together. This is something that caught my eye because off rip, it just looks like an all-in-one solution that would fit my workflow. But once again, it is a tool. It is just a tool to get the job that I do done better. And I wanted to see if this tool fits me. This is not something you have to want to go get or something you feel that you may need. If your workflow demands it, then you'll know if you need it or not. This thing is incredibly niche, and it turns out to be like the perfect camera for me from time to time. But today we're going to talk about how it fits into my workflow. Do I regret having this thing? What practical uses I have for it? And what am I going to be doing with it in the future? So I'm going to break this video up into a couple different sections. We're going to start off with my initial thoughts when I purchased this camera. This thing is about $13,000. There is no soft way around it. I know that the actual site says like $67.99, but once you buy all the things that you need for it, the insurance, the actual monitors that they advertise for it, the wireless transmission system, everything from the storage to the actual thing that holds the storage, we're talking about $13,000, and that is not a light investment by any means. And it is something that you really got to be prepared, and you really have to have stuff that you want to shoot with this type of camera. So you kind of got to feel for it when you're going into something like this. Me, I love the run and gun nature of it. I love the fact that it looked like an all-in-one solution. I have clients that would like to view the work that I'm shooting. I have times where we're doing commercial work and I need a focus puller. All those things require complex solutions until this thing. This thing I would consider to be an expensive solution, but it is something that is very streamlined, it's niche, and it does exactly what you want it to do when you need it to do it. The great thing about this thing is it has autofocus and it uses Sony lenses. Versatile mount, versatile camera, so I can get a variety of lenses from the actual DJI lenses to the Sony lenses I already have, and it fits all of my lenses flawlessly. This thing is a built-in gimbal, so it just fit the workflow. Like, I do a lot of commercial shoots where I kind of have to capture detail shots, I kind of have to capture B-rolls and things like that, so I wanted something that kind of fits the workflow. And from time to time I set up a gimbal, and it takes kind of a while to set up a gimbal. There is no easy way around setting up a gimbal. It just takes some time. But this thing, I just pop the lens on it and just start the camera. And that feels a lot better. That takes setup time down a lot. And it's fun to work with. Time to time, I shoot awesome car footage. Like, I have had so much fun shooting car commercials, doing these things for local television, these commercial spots that require me to set up a gimbal, some wireless transmitters, some tracking, autofocus, everything. And when doing that, I was like, hey, the solution to do that better is probably this thing. And truthfully, yeah, it just genuinely was. But that may be one side of my uses. This thing's absolutely terrible for story interviews. Obviously, it is a B-roll commercial quick cinema camera. Like, I do 2-hour interviews sometimes, and this is not the solution for that. The files are massive. This is a cumbersome design. It does not fit on a tripod easily. I mean, it does fit, but like it's a weird boy. And there was no XLR solutions when I first got it. I don't have the little XLR port that is additional. You can get that now, I believe, but when I first bought this thing, definitely was not available. So that plays into kind of having an expectation of what you want to use this kind of thing for before you get it. I knew I was going to use it for interview shoots, but I was going to use it to complement my interview shoots. Okay, so let's talk about hands-on experience. Off rip, when I first grabbed this thing, it felt like the best B-roll camera I'd ever held on to. It felt like I should obviously be shooting the cinematic portions of my videos with this thing. I found myself using this immediately for two different things. For a commercial camera, I use it for focus pulling. For things that require multiple hands on a set, this thing is great for it. So client B-roll, client commercial things. And I also found myself using it for YouTube. This is the best beginner camera. It is so forgiving. It has built-in NDs. It has 6K ProRes output, a built-in gimbal. The menu system is like black magic levels of easy. This camera you can hand to almost anybody and they can get exceptional footage with it, which is why I say this is a great YouTube camera. This is what I'm going to be using going forward to capture my YouTube B-roll and everything we do outside of this office. Expensive, but scary good at what it does. So if you are a beginner who has about 13 to 15 grand and you just want to like blow money on something, I mean, this is a great camera. You don't spend $13,000 on your first camera. Okay, so let's talk ease of use. This thing, incredibly easy because it comes with these handles that I have attached to the wireless monitoring system. This feels like a game. It feels so intuitive. It makes you realize how bad other cameras feel because this just feels like it should have been the solution to start with. It is exceptionally snappy. It is very intuitive to use. And unfortunately, it is a pricey experience to have. But once again, we're talking all-in-one solutions here. When it comes to operation, this thing has an incredible foundation. And what I mean by that is the features built into it, such as the gimbal itself, as well as the LiDAR focusing, the auto track features, the focusing help system, like the actual waveform and LiDAR focusing just works so well. It's so smart, so intuitive. It feels like, and of course it is, these tools were implemented to make your job filming so much easier. And yes, obviously that is why they're there. But a lot of times when you buy cameras, you're buying camera bodies and you have to rig it out to figure out what you don't know. This thing comes with almost every solution that you want for it built into the camera. And if it isn't there, it's expandable modularly. The camera has good modularity. It genuinely feels like the camera is working with you instead of fighting against you. And that's what I mean when I say beginners can use this camera exceptionally well, because you give it to them and it's so forgiving with the footage it captures, as well as how it captures the footage, from the internal stabilization with the actual gimbal to the sheer image quality that it produces. Speaking of image quality, this thing is exceptional. The image that it produces is spectacular because of the dynamic range that this camera has. The way it handles colors, the way it handles highlights and shadows, it genuinely does just work. But it is important for me to have a secondary camera that can handle those low light situations, a camera that I can pair with this, because as incredible as the image that this produces, it is not a all-in-one solution all the time. The image of this camera genuinely reminds me of the first time that I got the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. The 6K felt so new, so refreshing. And I was coming from the A7 III Sony and going to the FX3. This is that same feeling. It is a feeling like, wow, I actually did get an upgrade, and it's not just the same image on a different camera body. Editing with this thing is cake. I mean, you're working with ProRes footage. It may be 6K, but it's ProRes. You have so much versatility. You can do whatever you want to with it. You don't even need proxies with this thing. The file sizes are a lot bigger, but fair trade. There are other codecs where you can actually manage file size and the type of image you want. Me, I like to shoot 6K, 48 frames per second, everything. If they would just give a camera like this B-raw, I want that so much. But ProRes is still really, really good. So let's talk about the downsides. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, it is an incredible camera, but it has its downsides. One of them being the weight. This thing, this thing is heavy. And yes, that is real struggle. It is kind of front heavy from time to time, as you can see. But if you are wanting to shoot with something like this, the side handles help out tremendously. And if you're not using the side handles, getting you an easy rig definitely does help. I use it all the time. So it just kind of works for what it is. You know, there are no real lightweight cinema cameras, and that's kind of what this is trying its best to be. Second con is this is a new product. It's experimental. There will be other things that are better, that perfect the way that this form factor is. This is a first generation of a new product. The reason I went for it is because it's so good at being a first generation product that I was willing to just take the risk and be like, wow, this just looks like an incredible solution. And truthfully, it is. And my last con is this thing doesn't support every lens. If you have a bunch of lenses, you're worried about firmware to be able to support the actual autofocus of the lens. And then you're worried about the actual structure to support the weight. Now, you can put longer lenses on there. You just have to do a little bit of rigging. This thing fits every lens that I have. And truthfully, if I'm filming with an exceptionally long lens, longer than my 85 or longer than a 135, I'm probably using the Sony anyway, because that's probably a tripod shot. But not a con for me, but just a con in general. So in conclusion, this I would consider to be the perfect complementary camera to my setup. I do a lot of interviews, I do a lot of story videos, and all of those interviews and stories have B-roll that accompany them. This makes capturing B-roll so much fun. This makes the process incredible, and it just makes it so easy to do. This thing does most things better than most cameras, but it can't do all things better than most cameras. That is the important thing. So I love this as a complementary camera. I don't know if I could have this as my only camera. Like, I couldn't do the work that I particularly do and have this as my only camera. But if you do like weddings, or if you do exclusively commercial work to where you're running external audio, or if you do just B-roll based filmmaking, yes, you definitely could have this as your only camera. So do I regret buying it? You've heard a lot of good here, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Most days I look at this thing on the shelf and I'm like, why do I even own this? I can get stuff done with the Sony. It's lighter. I can just throw it together as fast as I can and get the same shots. But the days that I get to use this thing, and the days where it does what it's meant for, where I can show out with this camera, there is nothing like this experience at the moment. Not for me, not within my price range. So no, I do not regret buying this camera, because it's genuinely an experience, and it genuinely makes me happy to go out and film with it. So I will definitely be holding on to the Ronin 4D for quite a while, I'd imagine. I don't plan on buying many more cameras, but truthfully, I can't prove that. So who knows what I'll come up with next to fit some need that I may have. But for right now, this will be the main YouTube camera going forward. This will be what I use for all of my client videos as far as B-roll. And this thing is going to get some more incredible driving footage. But with that all being said, that's all I have for you today, guys. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you loved it, consider subscribing, because I'm gonna be bringing you more content just like this every week. So you guys stay safe, you're loved, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.